Hello students, welcome back to Pharmaceutical Concepts. Let us learn today some of the aspects of C13 NMR. We will compare C13 NMR with 1H NMR. 1H NMR detailed videos along with principle we have already seen. I have already uploaded on my channel. I will today discuss about some similarities and differences between 1H NMR and 13C NMR. So when I say carbon, there are three forms of carbon we know, and the most common isotope of carbon, that is carbon 12, 12C, which has 6 protons and 6 neutrons in it. Okay, this is the most uh, commonly available form of the carbon isotope. The next heaviest carbon isotope is the 13C, which has 7 neutrons in it. Okay, it has 6 protons and 7 neutrons in it. So both 12C and 13C are called as stable isotopes since they do not decay into any other forms or any other elements over the period of time. Then the third carbon form, that is 14C isotope, contains 8 neutrons. It has 8 neutrons in its nucleus. Therefore, as compared to 12C and 13C, this isotope is unstable, or we can say it is radioactive, because over the period of time 14C atom will decay into a stable product. So we have seen here that 12C is most abundant isotope of carbon. Its natural abundance is 98.9%. Means in nature 12C occurs most. 12C is found most in nature. It is NMR inactive as it has spin of 0. Okay, this we have already seen in the earlier videos. 6 protons and 6 neutrons, okay, which are paired against each other. Okay, 6 and 6. So overall there is no spin, 0 spin, and thus these are NMR inactive C12, and thus we cannot study 12C using NMR spectroscopy. Here in carbon 13 the mass is odd, okay, and since it has 7 neutrons into it, okay, the last one remains unpaired. Okay, 6 and 6, no, here, so 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, okay, 7 neutrons, so this one remains unpaired. Each spin is counted as half, so these all are nullifying each other's spin. So whatever is remaining, okay, its its spin is called as spin quantum number I, that is given here. So it is not just the odd even which we have learned so far that decides spin quantum number. There are so many other aspects also to decide spin quantum number for any nucleus, but at this level this is enough for us to know. Again, the very important point is 13C NMR, since it has spin quantum number half, it is NMR active and we can study its presence by NMR spectroscopy. But the only limitation is its natural abundance is very low. In nature, approximately only 1% of the carbons are 13C. Let us see more about 14C. It is the rarest isotope of carbon. Only 1 out of every trillion carbon atoms is 14C. So it is less than 0.0001%. Okay, so there is hardly any carbon with 14C or the 14C isotope. So about 13C NMR, what we have to know now, that is it is used together with PNMR, that is PMR means what? The proton NMR spectroscopy. So along with 1H, for some additional information we carry out 13C NMR also on the samples. This helps in structure elucidation along with IR spectroscopy. So these all spectroscopic techniques, they help each other, they complement each other for knowing structure of the unknown compound. So structure elucidation of organic compounds is very important application of this particular spectroscopy. It is used to determine the number of equivalent carbons. Okay, we have studied earlier 1H NMR where we get information about hydrogens. Here we get information about carbon. So it is used to identify types of carbon atoms present in any compound. Okay, so that carbon could be present in the form of methyl, it could be present in the form of methylene or aromatic or carbonyl and so on. Okay, so where exactly this particular carbon is located in the particular structure, what are the other atoms attached to that particular carbon, this all information we get from 13C NMR, exactly similar to 1H NMR. Okay, and by joining all these pieces of information we can predict the structure of the unknown compound. Thus it provides direct information. 1H NMR is used to determine the type and number of hydrogen atoms present. Okay, that means it studies spin changes of the hydrogen nuclei. Okay, hydrogen nucleus, suppose I have this particular structure with me. Suppose this is CH3 CH2 OH. Okay, if this is the compound, this particular spectroscopy will give me information about these hydrogens. Means what? Means how many hydrogens are present, where these hydrogens are present in the particular structure, whether they are attached to an electronegative group. Okay, that information I get from 1H NMR spectroscopy. And similar kind of information about carbon we get from 13C NMR. Okay, that is, it studies spin changes of carbon nuclei. So information about these carbons can be obtained using this spectroscopy. So we have seen earlier that natural abundance of 1H is very high in nature. So this means if the total number of carbons in a molecule is low, then there are very less chances of presence of any 13C nuclei. This means what? Suppose I have this particular structure. Okay, now in this particular structure there are so many carbons. Okay, now among all these carbons which are present here in this particular structure, this particular carbon which is C13, so chances of this carbon to be existing as 13C, those chances are only 1%. Okay, chances of this carbon to exist here in the form of 13C, so that chance is only 1%. And in addition to that, because of this, in a molecule containing 13C isotope, it is unlikely that the adjacent atom in the same molecule will be a 13C isotope. Means what? In this particular structure, first point we have seen that chances of this carbon to exist as 13C, that chance is only 1%. And chances of having two carbons adjacent to each other to be 13C are far rarer than that. So magnetogyric ratio of 1H is 267.53, and you can see magnetogyric ratio of 13C is very less as compared to 1H NMR. This means what? See, this is almost 1/4 that of the 1H magnetogyric ratio. This means 13C NMR resonance takes place at low values of Larmor frequency. Now why I am saying that? If you remember the Larmor frequency, okay, if you remember Larmor frequency, that is nu equals to magnetogyric ratio 2 pi, and this is B0. B0 is what? Magnitude of the external magnetic field. Okay, this nu is what? That is the precessional frequency or Larmor frequency, and this is the magnetogyric ratio. So if you see here, if I apply some magnetic field over here, that is multiplied by the magnetogyric ratio, since this value is very low for C13, the resultant precessional frequency will also be very low for 13C. Okay, and therefore I am saying here that 13C NMR resonance takes place at low values of precessional frequency. If you see this particular screenshot I have taken, okay, from this site. So this particular motion which you have seen just now, this is the precessional motion. Okay, so number of such precessions per unit time is the precessional frequency. So I am talking about that precessional frequency that will be low for 13C NMR. So because of less magnetogyric ratio, the precessional frequency is less and the method is also less sensitive. Okay, why? Because the sensitivity of method is directly proportional to the to the magnetogyric ratio, cube of magnetogyric ratio. So sensitivity of C13 is directly proportional to the magnetogyric ratio, cube of 13C. Now this magnetogyric ratio of C13 is 1/4 of that of 1H, right? So that means what? It is 1/64 multiplied by cube of magnetogyric ratio of 1H. Okay, and if we multiply here by, for the sensitivity, if we multiply the natural abundance over here, which I am taking 1% approximately, so this 1% is nothing but 1/100, okay, of sensitivity of 1H. So that means sensitivity of C13 here is 1/6400 of sensitivity of 1H. Okay, so basically what we have to remember, just that C13 is less sensitive. Why less sensitive? Because its magnetogyric ratio is lesser than 1H. Okay, but this limitation has been overcome by Fourier transform, that is FTNMR, whereby bombarding number of radio frequencies simultaneously for a short duration in the form of pulse, the peaks of 13C NMR can be improved. Now next comparison is with respect to solvent peak. Solvent peaks are usually not present, means there is no interference in 1H NMR if the solvents are deuterated. If the solvents are not deuterated, see CHCl3, I cannot use as solvent in 1H NMR because this hydrogen of the solvent will get then recorded in the NMR spectrum, and thus we use the deuterated solvents. Instead of hydrogen, this deuterium is placed over here, so this solvent is used. So if I am using this solvent, it will not show any peak of hydrogen in the NMR spectrum. Okay, in case of 13C NMR, in almost all the solvents, this carbon will always be there, and thus there are chances of appearance of solvent peaks in 13C NMR. So most NMR spectra are recorded for compounds which are dissolved in solvents. Okay, therefore signals will be observed for the solvent, and this must be accounted during solving the spectral problems. Next comparison is with respect to integration. of the NMR spectrum. Integration of the spectrum is a measure of the proton count. If you remember the spectrum, NMR spectrum, suppose I get this type of doublet, singlet, okay, I get this type of triplet. So the software gives me the integration, okay, that means it tells me this peak corresponds to how many numbers of hydrogen, this peak corresponds to how many numbers of hydrogen, okay. So in simple words, if I have this smaller peak and if I have this larger peak, so number of hydrogens represented by this particular peak will be more as compared to this. Suppose my singlet is very stronger but my triplet is very shorter peak, then number of peaks represented by this particular, number of hydrogens represented by this particular peak are lesser here, okay. So integration of the spectrum we have seen here in 13C NMR. The spectrum or the area under the signal is not simply proportional to the number of carbons which are giving rise to the signal, because of the NOE which we have seen, Overhauser effect from proton decoupling, is not equal for all carbons, and because of this effect from proton decoupling, the integration is not done in 13C NMR. Next comparison between 1H and 13C is with respect to electronegativity. So we have seen for such type of compounds where there is electronegative group attached over here, okay, so these electronegative groups, they have tendency to attract electrons towards them. So that means all the electrons are moving here. So electron cloud or electron density is very poor here. So we call this particular hydrogen as d-shielded. Okay. So in case of 1H NMR, this is the d-shielding. Here I have said that downfield. So these d-shielded protons, their peak appears downfield. Okay, please try to recollect. We have seen in my earlier video, okay, this on delta scale 0 to 10, this particular side which is towards TMS, okay, that there the shielded protons appear, okay, or it is called as upfield, and this particular side is called as downfield. So d-shielded protons, they appear downfield. So we are remembering D and D. D-shielded protons appear downfield, that we are remembering here. Okay. So I am saying that D-shielded protons, they appear downfield, and this downfield is less pronounced in 1H NMR. Why? Because if you see here in the same example, this electronegative group is not directly attached to this hydrogen. So when I study 13C NMR, there this carbon is directly attached to chlorine. Okay, so therefore even here in this example also, I am talking about de-shielding of this hydrogen because of the presence of this electronegative group. So this hydrogen is not directly attached to this oxygen. Okay, there is carbon in between. Thus de-shielding of this carbon will be more as compared to de-shielding or the downfield effect of this hydrogen. Okay, carbon I am studying in 13C NMR. H I am studying in 1H NMR. So this statement has been made, okay, that downfield is more pronounced as 13C and electronegative groups are directly attached to each other. Here, farther the H nuclei from electronegative group, de-shielding effect will reduce. This also we have seen, CH3, CH2, chlorine. So since these hydrogens are closer to chlorine and these are little far from the electronegative group, so these will be more de-shielded. Okay, so they will appear downfield. So similar to PMR, de-shielding effect is de-shielding effect is reduced if 13C is very far from electronegative group, but additionally Small upfield effect can be observed for the farthest 13C nuclei, which is not observed in PMR. Okay, so the carbon which is very far from the electronegative group, for that carbon, yes, de-shielding is reduced, that is true, but little upfield effect can be observed in certain instances, okay, which is not there in 1H. Next comparison is with respect to the internal standard of choice which is used in NMR spectroscopy. So in both the techniques, TMS, that is tetramethylsilane, tetramethylsilane. So tetra means four methyl groups. Okay, so tetramethylsilane is used as the solvent of choice. Okay, and in case of 1H NMR, it is this compound. In case of C13, it could be 13C enriched TMS, but yes, we know that its natural abundance is very low. So we just have to remember that in NMR spectroscopy, this is the compound which can be used. Again, with respect to the solubility of your compound, there is alternative also available, where this particular group is removed, or one of the hydrogen here, CH2H, this hydrogen is removed and replaced, so that a salt form can be prepared and the water soluble compounds can be dissolved in that internal standard. Next comparison is with respect to chemical shift range. We know that the delta scale, which I just now mentioned, okay, which is 0 to 14, okay, ppm, this is the chemical shift on the x-axis. In case of 13C NMR, this chemical shift range is 0 to 240 ppm. So if you compare this here, see the different types of hydrogens, hydrogen which is attached to the carbon of the benzene ring, carbon which is attached or closer to double bond, hydrogen which is attached to the carbon which is closer to halogens. Okay, so we can see here the delta scale for 1H NMR, that is proton chemical shift values for different types of hydrogens. We can see here the chemical shift range for 13C NMR with respect to TMS. Okay, these carbons which are attached to each other by double bond, these carbons which are a part of aromatic ring, carbon which is a part of carboxylic group, carbon which is directly attached to halogens, directly attached to oxygen through single bond. So all of them will appear at different chemical shift value. Next comparison is with respect to spin-spin coupling. We also call this as peak multiplicity. In 1H NMR, homonuclear coupling is observed, that is the coupling between single type of nuclei like protons. Homonuclear coupling is observed between the protons which are separated by 3 sigma bonds. Greater than 3 sigma bonds, we cannot observe any homonuclear coupling. That means what? If I have this hydrogen, so these two hydrogens are present on the adjacent carbons, so they can couple each other, they can split each other's signal, okay, by n+1 rule. This we have studied earlier in detail. Okay, please go through those videos if you have if you are unable to recollect. So 3 sigma bonds, 1 2 3. Now in case of 13C NMR, heteronuclear coupling is more observed. 13C has 1H attached to it. They can interact with each other. Okay, so here this carbon and this hydrogen, see, this is also NMR active, this is also NMR active. If this is C13, okay, then this C13 and this 1H can split each other's signal. This is called as heteronuclear coupling. this heteronuclear coupling can be observed only through one sigma bond. So that was all about C13 NMR. Okay, a very short note on 13C NMR I have covered over here. If you want more details of 13C NMR with respect to any specific topic, do let me know in the comment section. And thank you for watching this till the end. If you are new to my channel, do subscribe and do not forget to hit the bell icon for the latest updates on my channel. Thank you very much and all the best.